You walked into Best Buy 6 months ago and asked the salesperson which TV to buy. He pointed you straight at the $1,200 QLED on the wall. It's basically the same as OLED, he said, just brighter. You bought it, brought it home, and yeah, it looked fine, great, even in the middle of the day. Then you turn the lights off to watch a movie. Dark scene comes on, and you notice it. That soft, foggy glow bleeding in from the edges of the screen. Like someone left a nightlight on inside the TV. You Google it. Backlight bleed. You find a Samsung community forum thread with 21 replies and dozens of people saying the exact same thing. One buyer wrote, "Got my new 65-inch Q70C 3 days ago. Paid nearly $2,000. Watching anything dark and these blotchy glowing patches are everywhere. Samsung Tech says it's performing within spec. Within spec, I could cry. Here's what nobody told you at checkout. LED, QLED, OLED, and MiniLED are not just different names for the same thing. They are fundamentally different technologies with different failure points, different picture trade-offs, and different consequences depending on your room, your budget, and how you actually watch TV. Picking the wrong one isn't just a picture quality issue. It's a $600 mistake, or a $1,200 mistake, or more. So today, we're going to cut through all of it. What these technologies actually are, what they actually do to the picture, where each one fails, and which one wins for your specific situation. Let's get into it. The foundation nobody explains. Before we rank anything, you need to understand what you're actually buying. Because here's the thing, 3 of these 4 technologies are secretly the same thing. LED, QLED, and Mini-LED are all LCD televisions. They all work the same basic way. A backlight sits behind a panel of liquid crystals. The crystals open and close to let light through. Color filters do the rest. That's it. That's all 3 of them. What separates them is what produces the backlight, how many backlights there are, and how precisely they can be controlled. OLED breaks that model entirely. Every single pixel produces its own light, no backlight. When a pixel should be black, it just turns off completely. Zero light, absolute black. That difference, backlight versus self-emitting pixels, is the most important thing to understand before you spend $1. Now let's talk about each one. And we'll start where most people start, the cheapest option. Standard LED. The honest answer for under $500 standard LED is the baseline. It's the technology that sells the most TVs every year, mostly because of price. A solid 55-inch 4K LED set runs you $300 to $550. That's hard to argue with. Here's how it works. Edge-lit models have a strip of LEDs running along the sides or the bottom of the panel. They light the whole screen at once from the edges. Direct-lit models have a grid of LEDs across the entire back. Still one big shared backlight, but more uniform. Neither one can control brightness zone by zone with any precision. The consequence of that is backlight bleed. In dark scenes, the light that's supposed to stay in the bright parts of the image seeps into the black areas. You get glowing corners, bright patches, that foggy look. Consumer Reports notes this is the most consistent complaint from LED LCD owners. Not the picture in bright light, which is usually perfectly acceptable, but the picture once the room gets dark. For most people, that's fine. If you're putting a TV in a bright kitchen, a kid's room, a spare bedroom, or anywhere that's lit up during viewing, you'll never notice the backlight limitations. The picture is clean, the colors are decent, and a 55-inch LED from Samsung or TCL at $400 is a real television that does its job. The hidden risk is buying too cheap within this category. A $179 Westinghouse or an off-brand LED from a retailer you've never heard of is not the same as a $399 Samsung Crystal UHD or a $479 TCL S-Class. Cheap LED sets use the lowest grade backlight strips available. When one LED element in the strip fails, and they do fail, half the screen goes dark. And the warranty support on a $179 TV is essentially nothing. Consumer Reports gives budget brand LED sets their worst reliability ratings. Failure within 5 years on some off-brand models runs as high as 20 to 25%. One owner wrote, "Bought a Westinghouse 50-inch, lasted 11 months. Half the screen went black. Called support 3 times. Never got a solution. Dragged it to the curb. Bottom line, if you're buying LED, stick to Samsung, TCL, or Hisense in their mid-range models. Budget $350 to $550 for a 55-inch, and don't go below that unless it's a secondary TV you genuinely don't care about. And no going in, dark rooms are not this technology's friend. But here's where it gets interesting. Because once you cross $500, something happens. You're no longer comparing LED to LED. You're entering the QLED category, and the name is doing a lot of work the picture doesn't always back up. QLED, the marketing name that's confusing millions of people. QLED, it sounds like the next step above LED, right? A premium version. And it kind of is. But there's something Samsung would rather you didn't know. QLED is still an LCD television, still has a backlight, still has liquid crystals. The only difference between a standard LED and a QLED is a single additional layer, a quantum dot film, sandwiched inside the panel stack. That quantum dot layer absorbs blue light from the LED backlight and re-emits it as purer, more saturated red and green light. The result is measurably wider color coverage. A good QLED hits around 95 to 99% of the DCI P3 color space. A standard LED without quantum dots sits closer to 85 to 90%. That's a real, quantifiable difference. Colors are more vibrant. HDR content looks punchier. In a bright room, a QLED genuinely outperforms a standard LED at the same price point. But, and this is the part that matters, Samsung named QLED to rhyme with OLED on purpose. They launched the branding specifically to compete with OLED marketing. Consumer electronics researchers have found that a significant number of shoppers leave the store thinking QLED is either the same as OLED or a close competitor. It is not. QLED cannot produce true black. The backlight stays on. You will still see that glow in dark scenes, though less severe on higher-end QLED models that use full-array local dimming. Here's another thing they don't advertise. The quality gap inside the QLED category is enormous. An entry-level $499 QLED might have fewer than 20 dimming zones. A mid-range $900 QLED might have 100 zones. A flagship Neo QLED might have 500-plus zones. More zones means better control over which parts of the screen are bright and which are dark. That $499 QLED, almost no better than a decent standard LED in dark scenes. That 900-plus QLED with full-array local dimming, noticeably better. The Samsung QN90F is the QLED model our Tings and Tom's Guide currently point to as the one that earns its price tag. It delivers the anti-glare matte coating, strong local dimming, and peak brightness approaching 1,500 to 2,000 nits for HDR highlights. For bright rooms, it's genuinely impressive. One Reddit Arte Home Theater user said it was the first TV that made them stop missing their projector. For daytime viewing, nothing they'd tried came close. But here's what that same user said about night viewing. The blacks still aren't as deep as OLED, still a gray glow on fully dark scenes. And the 65-inch QN90F runs about $1,300 street price in 2026. The same price as the 65-inch LG C5 OLED during recent sale events. That comparison changes things dramatically, and we'll get to it. But first, there's a technology that tried to solve the darkroom problem for LCD without going all the way to OLED. And it's being sold with a marketing label that is hiding a dirty little secret. MiniLED, the best upgrade in the room, with one catch nobody talks about enough. MiniLED is the most genuinely exciting development in LCD television in years. Here's what it actually is. Instead of using a handful of large LEDs as the backlight, Mini-LED TVs use thousands of tiny LEDs, each one a fraction of the size. More LEDs means more dimming zones. More dimming zones means more precise control over what's bright and what's dark. Ratings and independent reviewers like HDTV Test have documented the performance at different zone counts. Under 300 zones, Mini-LED is barely better than standard direct-lit LCD. 300 to 700 zones is entry-level. Improved, but halos still visible in dark scenes. 700 to 1500 zones gets genuinely good HDR performance with minimal artifacts. Above 1500 zones, you're approaching performance that rivals OLED in most real-world content. The TCL QM6K, one of the most recommended budget mini-LED sets in 2026 at under $500 for a 55-inch, packs strong specs for its price range, 144 Hz refresh rate, and solid local dimming performance that places it well above the standard LED competition. The Hisense U7 and U8 series offer similar value in a slightly different package. These sets represent the best value proposition in TV right now. But here's the catch nobody talks about enough: blooming. Blooming is what happens when a small, bright object, a subtitle, a game HUD, a white cursor, sits against a very dark background. The dimming zone lighting that object is larger than the object itself. So the backlight bleeds outward in a circular glow, a halo. Reviewers call it the Mini-LED halo effect. And as recently as 2024, it was bad enough that What Hi-Fi's TV editor wrote what he called a scathing summary, declaring that 2024's Mini-LED experiment had failed against OLED at the premium end. The 2025 and 2026 flagships have gotten better. TCL's micro-OD technology on the QM8K, combined with high zone counts, keeps halos small, but they are still there. One owner described it perfectly: "My TCL Mini-LED shows bloom when the Netflix buffering animation comes up. The spinning circle on black has this soft glow around it. It's not terrible, but once you see it, you can't unsee it." The key insight from independent testing: a budget Mini-LED with 120 zones and a flagship Mini-LED with 2,000 zones both carry the Mini-LED label on the box. They are not the same product. Check the zone count before you buy. Anything under 500 zones is not worth the premium over standard LED. Anything above 1,000 zones is genuinely competitive with mid-range OLED for most content. Bottom line, Mini-LED is the right choice if you watch in a brightly lit room, if you're a sports fan who wants explosive brightness for HDR highlights, or if burn-in risk concerns you for any reason. The TCL QM6K at under $500 for a 55-inch is arguably the best value TV you can buy right now. But in a dark room watching a dark film, it still can't touch what comes next. OLED, the one that changes how you think about TVs. Here's what OLED does that nothing else can. When a pixel should be black, it turns off completely. The light output from that pixel is exactly zero, not very dark gray, not near black, zero. That means the contrast ratio on an OLED TV is effectively infinite. You're comparing the brightest whites to the absence of any light at all. No backlight-based technology can approach that. The picture consequence of that in a dark room is something you can't fully understand until you've seen it. Star fields in space scenes look like actual stars, not glowing blobs. Dark clothing in nighttime scenes holds texture and shadow detail. Movie credits on a black background look clean and sharp, not surrounded by halos. OLED TVs, measured by ratings, show black levels of 0.0000 nits. The best Mini-LED flagships, by comparison, bottom out around 0.002 to 0.005 nits. That sounds small on paper. It's not small on screen. The LG C5 is the flagship recommendation across nearly every independent review outlet in 2026. Tom's Guide gave it 5 stars, the only TV reviewed to earn that score in 2025. TechRadar gave it 5 stars. RTA Jeans ranks it at the top of its class for overall picture performance. It launched at $2,699 for the 65-inch. It has since hit an all-time low of $1,099 at Best Buy and Amazon during July sales events, a 59% reduction from MSRP. At that price, it cost the same or less than most mid-range LED TVs did 2 years ago. That's not a typo. Now, you've heard about burn-in. Let's address it directly, because it's the #1 thing that scares people away from OLED. And the fear is more outdated than most people realize. OLED burn-in happens when a static image is displayed at high brightness for many hours, repeatedly, over an extended period. Modern OLED panels include pixel shifting, automatic brightness limiters for static content, and periodic maintenance cycles to distribute wear evenly. For the vast majority of household viewing, movies, shows, sports, mixed content, burn-in is not a practical risk on current generation panels. The Big Screen Store, which tracks real-world OLED ownership data, says the overwhelming majority of OLED owners never experience burn-in in the lifetime of their TV. There are real exceptions. If you run a single news channel 8 hours a day, every day, that scrolling ticker is a risk. If you game heavily on a single title with a permanent static HUD, that's worth paying attention to. If that's your specific situation, MiniLED is the right call. For everyone else, the burn-in conversation has been largely solved by 2026 engineering. The one limitation OLED still carries is peak brightness. The best OLED panels in 2026 hit around 800 to 900 nits in small highlight areas. The best Mini-LED flagships hit 3,000 to 4,000 nits. In a bright, sunny living room, with the curtains open and afternoon light hitting the screen, a high-brightness Mini-LED will look better than an OLED. OLED is best experienced when the room is reasonably dark, which, for most people watching a movie or a show at night, is exactly when they're using it. One owner's summary, posted to Reddit's Our Home Theater, says it better than any spec sheet. Had an LED for 7 years. Upgraded to the LG C5. First night I put on a dark movie and actually said out loud, "Is the TV on?" The blacks were that different. I had no idea. Bottom line, if your room gets dark for most of your viewing, if picture quality is your priority, and if you can find the LG C5 anywhere near $1,099 to $1,000 to $1,000 to $1,099, there is no competition. It is the most significant picture quality upgrade available in consumer television in 2026. The verdict. Which one wins for you? Here's the summary. Because all of this information only matters if it helps you buy the right TV. If your budget is under $500 and the room is brightly lit during most viewing, standard LED from Samsung, TCL, or Hisense in the mid-range. The TCL S-Class and Samsung Crystal UHD are reliable choices. Avoid anything below $300 from brands without a real support infrastructure. If your budget is $400 to $700 and you want the best picture value in the market right now, TCL QM6K Mini LED. Outstanding brightness, solid local dimming at its zone count, 144 Hz gaming features, and a price that was unthinkable for this performance 3 years ago. This is the move for bright rooms and sports fans. If your budget is $800 to $1,300 and your room gets dark, the LG C5 OLED, full stop. Check Best Buy, Amazon, and Walmart during sale events. This TV has been repeatedly discounted below $1,100 for the 65-inch size. At that price point, it is not a close call. If your budget is over $1,500 and you want the absolute peak, the LG G5 or Samsung S95 FQD OLED. These are the flagship panels with the highest brightness OLED currently achieves, combined with the precision of per-pixel contrast. The G5 uses tandem OLED technology that LG claims extends panel lifespan further. The S95F combines Samsung's quantum dot layer with OLED for industry-leading color volume. Neither is for everyone. Both are genuinely exceptional. One more thing. Samsung named QLED to sound like OLED. It is not OLED. If a salesperson tells you QLED is basically the same, now you know exactly why they're wrong. What you should take away from this. 4 things. First, the technology name on the box is not the whole story. MiniLED means nothing without the zone count. QLED means nothing without knowing whether it has full-array local dimming. Always look past the label. Second, your room matters as much as the technology. OLED in a bright room undersells itself. Mini-LED in a dark room shows its limitations. The best TV is the right TV for where you actually sit. Third, OLED prices have fallen dramatically. A 65-inch LG C5 at $1,099 to $1,099 during sales events is genuinely one of the best technology value propositions of 2026. That price point didn't exist 3 years ago. Fourth, the biggest mistake you can make right now is buying a budget LED for $179 to $300 from a no-name brand and expecting it to last. The failure rates on that category are not small. You are not saving money. You are borrowing it. Which TV technology have you used? And did it live up to what you were sold at the store? Drop your experience in the comments below. I want to hear what you actually found when you got it home. And, if this helped you cut through the confusion, subscribe. This is exactly what we do here.